Welcome to the meeting, everyone. For those of you that this is your first time attending a weekly meeting, it's just 30 minutes of answering questions, teaching on a topic, brainstorming, and just kind of giving you guys my 2 cents on getting the most out of the program. So my name is Zuar Morales, as you can see on my little head box. Went through the program back in 2021, got out of the Marine Corps in December of 2021. And my wife and I have been doing real estate full time ever since then and loving it. We're out here in Hawaii, a lot more competition compared to most places. There's about 6,000 agents on the island. A good chunk of them are not full-time agents. So that makes it a little bit better for us because we are full-time agents, but it also means you got to hustle a little more to keep the money coming in. But if you're having fun with it, the money is the last of your worries. It's just a matter of helping people make their dreams come true. That being said, if you're in a safe situation, I'd appreciate it. Put your camera on just to make this a more interactive session. And especially since today we'll be doing some breakout rooms with groups of about 3 or 4 people so that you can practice what we're going to practice today, which is the buyer consultation, but primarily the aspect of the change that happened with the NAR recently, where buyer's agent commission is no longer a guaranteed paid item by the sell side. Does anyone have any, before we jump into that, does anyone have any general questions about SkillBridge RE program, about anything in general before we jump into this topic? You can unmute yourself or you can drop it in the chat box, whatever you prefer.
Hey, this is Chase. I'm trying to figure out how to put my camera on. I'm using my phone right now because AT&T's down.
Yeah, so bottom left, I believe, should have camera logo.
Sorry. Not the most tech savvy.
You bring up a good topic.
Let's see.
For a lot of your clients that you're going to be working with, everyone, you might be doing buyer consult. So I recommend spending like 15, 20 minutes, maybe more. Just open up Zoom, set up a meeting with yourself, and just click around, see what all the different buttons do. There's a lot of neat features that can help make it a good experience when you're meeting with someone over Zoom, because a lot of times they can seem real impersonal and just kind of awkward. But if you know how to use it and use the tools that are available, you can use it to do dry erase board and all that stuff. But sorry, what was your question, Chase?
Yes, I can't find the camera now. I'm gonna keep messing with it. So I'm trying to figure out how to get this open 7. I contacted support with LastPass and all that stuff, and they weren't much help. Earlier, I did the extension on Chrome, on Microsoft Edge. I cleared the cache and all these different things, and it still is like not letting me in. It only brings up the email when I go to. It never puts in the password. But I'm trying to figure out how to get in there so I can start doing these cold calls, but. I just wanted to let you know, and if anyone had any advice on that or something. I know, was it Andrea? I think you figured it out last time or something like that. And I was just wondering if you had any advice on how you did it. That's all I had to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Chase. Andrea, have you cracked the code on this problem that Chase is having? Andrea? Sounds like Andrea's busy, or there she is. She's replying in the chat box. So if you're able to mute yourself, please do. Otherwise, if you're not, then you can just drop a response in the chat box so that Chase and the rest of the crew can see how to figure out this issue if they face it. But
my fault. I didn't mean to throw you under the bus right there. I just saw that she knew how to do it.
Oh no, you're good. That's what these meetings are for, because stuff that I don't know what you're talking about with how to. That I haven't had that issue before, so it's good that we have this mastermind type thing where Andrea has the answer as a solution, so she can provide it. So let's see. My bad, didn't realize I wasn't muted. All good. don't know what your name is because it says Zoom user. But all right, we'll jump into what we're doing today. And so the approach that I'll be using with doing these, talking about um, buyer's representation agreements. If I had to, so I wanted to like box it into a real easy to remember acronym, just like we use in the military. And so I did ABCs, so ABCS. So the first one is Aloha, and I'll just drop this in the chat box if you want to screenshot it or save it for later. So Aloha means hello, goodbye, whatever, just like having a conversation. So I use that as a mental reminder. So you meet someone, you set up ideally this is like a set aside 30-minute to an hour window when you're meeting up with somebody to do a buyer consultation. And so I try to make it at least 5 to 10 minutes. One of my mentors, his approach was to see how long he could go keeping that build rapport phase or that Aloha phase going, and kind of have like an internal competition with himself to see how long he could go. And when you're having those conversations, you'll kind of get a feel for if they're kind of done with talking about things other than real estate, and or if they're enjoying it and you guys are like, oh, do you know so and so? Yeah, I know them. I served with them back at this unit and we did this together, blah blah blah. And you guys, if you're building that rapport, then that's good. But if they're just like, if you're asking them like, oh, where were you stationed? Overseas. Oh, cool. Where overseas? Germany. And if you kind of feel like they just want to get down to it because they're like, whatever, it might just be their personality or it might be their timeline. Maybe they have a meeting that they're trying to get to and they're just trying to knock out that meeting so they can get to the next thing. You can get a feel for that. But then that first phase is the Aloha phase, building rapport, building conversation, but it's also intel collection because you're finding out like, oh, are you married? Are you not? Do you have kids? How many? Do you have pets? Because all those items are going to dictate what type of home they're looking for. Because um, over here in Hawaii, if I'm talking to a person that's married, they have 3 kids, 2 dogs, I'm probably not going to try to find them a studio that doesn't have any bedrooms and doesn't have a laundry in the studio either. Um, and so when you're talking with them and building that rapport, you're also collecting information about them and getting a feel for what they're looking for. If they're primarily focusing on the investment, or if they're looking for a comfortable home where their family can enjoy the yard and their dogs can run around and they're not gonna have to worry about neighbors complaining, stuff like that. And then the next phase, I call the business phase. So shifting to like a more focused effort of getting the details of what they want. So you want to ask them like, what's the absolute minimum number of bedrooms you want, bathrooms, what type of kitchen do you like, laundry, is that an important thing for you to have inside or outside, all those things. And there might be some more specific items that are specific to your area. So I bring up laundry because here in Hawaii, a lot of places have laundry outside, but that's kind of a foreign detail in the mainland because you have like a dedicated laundry room that's like 500 square feet. Here, you have laundry machines outside in most cases, or if you're in a condo, you might have shared laundry. But yeah, I'm sure everyone has details like that you can hammer out with your client and ask them like, what are you expecting? And that's also an opportunity where you're showing your value. Because if they're moving to somewhere in Connecticut or Virginia, and if they have no idea about some detail that's specific to your area, and you're telling them like, oh, hey, so how many parking spots do you need? And they're like, parking spots, why does that even matter? Like, I'm moving from Texas where you can park wherever you want and there's plenty of space for it. So why are you asking me about parking? Like, oh, actually parking is pretty tight here. And so you're actually assigned parking spots. And so depending on the property you're looking at, it might have 1 spot, 2 spots, or no spots at all. And you have to rent from a parking garage nearby or something like that. And so that's where you're demonstrating your value, and you're already, building the confidence that they have in you and justifying your value to why they should be okay with having you represent them and guiding them, making sure that they're making the right decision with this big home purchase. And the next item, closing. So kind of closing in on doing the buyer's representation agreement. And it doesn't have to be like an awkward, like, dun, 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 buyer's rep agreement, sign this, or we're not doing business together. You can just explain to them your value and express how if they don't have someone representing them, it's them versus a seller who is being represented by a listing agent. There might be a for sale by owner situation where it's kind of might be like the blind leading the blind through the transaction. But in most cases, they're going to be looking at properties that are on the market. They're on the market because they're represented by a listing agent. And so you're going to have this experienced listing agent against this buyer. Might be a first-time home buyer, which would be really dangerous. Might be an experienced buyer who thinks they're, a pro, think they have a part-time lawyer deal and a part-time, building permits and contractor and all that stuff. They think they know it all, but if they don't know the specific area where they're buying, there's going to be a lot of stuff that they're going to potentially get shafted on. And so that's your opportunity to explain your value and how you're going to look out for their best interest to make sure they're set up for success in that purchase. And then the last item, setting. So ABCS, setting the next appointment. A lot of times you can have this fantastic conversation. You guys hit it off. The buyer's representation agreement is no problem, all that stuff. And then it's like, all right, well, it was great talking with you. I'll see you later. And then you kind of you think in your mind, you're like, wow, that was great. And then a day goes by and you're like, maybe you get busy with other things and you're starting to think, oh, I should reach out to that person. But then you get distracted, social media, whatever it is, life, family, and you forget to reach out to them. A couple more days go by. And then before you know it, so it's been a week, you reach out to them and they're like, oh yeah, I was actually went to some open houses this weekend and yeah, I'm actually in escrow right now. It's like, oh wow, I thought I was gonna help you buy a house, but never mind. And so if you set that next appointment, whatever it is, so you have that conversation, maybe they want to meet up again because they have more questions, but you didn't have enough time to cover it, or maybe they're ready to go start checking out houses, all that stuff. And so before the end of that conversation, you want to set, all right, it was great meeting you, great talking with you, really excited to help you. So what do you have going on next week? Do you want to check out some open houses this weekend? Do you want me to connect you with the lender so you can do the pre-approval process? And then once that's set, we can meet up to talk about that and home shopping. Whatever it is, you want to set the next appointment so that you don't just get forgotten. And because it may not be like a situation where they find some other realtor. It could be where something just happens that changes the situation, where if you had you set that appointment, it would have been one step closer to helping them make their dreams come true. But yeah, just be vigilant about doing that. Any questions on any of that stuff? All right, so we have 15 people in the audience. I think most people are able to unmute themselves, so we can do a little practice session. And so we're going to fast forward from the Aloha business phase to the buyer's representation agreement. I would say, if I had to guess, probably like a 75-25 split right now between just the general population, and what they care or have heard about this NAR change. I would say about 25% of people, it's not even on their radar because they're just like real estate stuff. I don't even care. Doesn't matter to me. And I would say about 75% have at least heard about it because mainstream media has been making such a big deal out of it. And so it will be a topic of conversation that will come up. And I believe the best way to approach it is to be the one leading the charge on bringing it up, instead of trying to dance around it. And then they're like, oh, maybe it's like the very end of the conversation. And you're like, you already set the next appointment. And they're like, oh yeah, I just remembered. I saw this meme on Instagram, and it was saying something about how realtors are no longer needed because of this NAR change. What did you hear about that? And then it's like, oh crap, you got to end this great conversation off on this topic and it's like you're like fumbling through your words and trying to wrap it up and stuff. But if you make it part of your flow and you kind of build it into like the middle of your spiel, then it'll come out a lot smoother. Um, and so we're going to break out into groups. We're going to pretend we're at that phase where you bring it up, however you want to bring it up. And then once we come back from the breakout groups, we're going to compile some quick notes and of like what you did, pros and cons, and hopefully walk away with with a little bit of a recipe for how to practice it to do it in real life. All right. And so when I break you out into groups, you're gonna see a little button that says go to the breakout room, and then I'll do a 1 minute warning. So, but don't click exit now. Just let the 1 minute warning and keep practicing until that 1 minute warning completes. And we're gonna do about 5 minutes of practice, and then come back. Any questions? All righty. Let me see. Kevin Hale just said mine keeps freezing. Signal's crap right now. And again, I'm going to do groups of 4. So, and let's do alphabetical. Going alphabetically, the first 2 people one will be the agent, one will be the buyer. And so just kick it off right away so you can jump right into it. So you're not figuring out who's going to be talking. Um, all right. Sounds good. No other questions. I'm going to send you guys to the breakout rooms. All right, welcome back, folks. So, what did you guys learn from your experience doing that? Goods and bads.
Is it just the 6 of us today?
There's 15. A few more people are still making their way back from the room. All right, who wants to be the first volunteer to talk about some learning points?
I could bring up a point that we got up in ours.
Go ahead, Carlos.
Yeah, so well, first of all, Chris did an amazing job explaining it. Apparently, according to him, he didn't practice or didn't write a script, but that sounded like BS to me. He's practiced that every single morning. But that being said, one thing that we talked about ours is, just like when you try to explain your military job to a civilian or someone who's very not familiar with the military, using all that lingo, the jargon, is very confusing to them and they don't understand it. For someone who's about to make the biggest decision of their lives, hearing all these confusing big words might scare them off and put them off. So we're thinking that like a good way to make them feel comfortable is, without insulting them, like dumbing it down a bit, using a bit not as harsh language and all these big words to make them feel a little more comfortable, a little more understanding of exactly what's going on.
Okay. And so, how did Chris do that? Just explaining definition of some of the terms, or
It's just very like simple stuff. To us, the words are like second nature, right? Like
yeah.
listing agent, DOJ, and stuff. But you know, to someone who has never done this process of getting a house, listing agent, though they could probably think about it and realize what that is, in that moment when you're trying to explain everything, they might be like a bit overwhelmed. And it's going to be different with everyone, but I think that's just a good point to think of.
Okay. So you're saying basically just very calm and slow, explaining everything, as you're talking them through different scenarios.
Yeah, and just try not to use as, big fancy words as much.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great point.
And I'll add that, like, not even so much like fancy words too, but just some people might not know what NAR is, or really what MLS means. So just things like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because if you're like, I bring a lot of value to the table because I can give you access to the MLS and you can see FISBOs. Like if you're using all these acronyms, they're like, that's cool. I have no idea what you just said. I don't see the value in what you're bringing me. So that's a good point.
To piggyback off of that, I do agree with like what Carlos said and stuff as well. But he did a great job at explaining like the acronyms as well. Like he did, he would say them and then he would say, this means this or that, blah blah blah, and these are my sources on where I learned this stuff, and uh, kind of offered other solutions on what exactly he can go about with the whole process and how that's not even a settled thing when it comes to the lawsuit and uh, basically offering solutions and stuff like that. And he definitely clarified a lot of the things he was saying. But I also agree with the fact that it was a lot of big words in there that could be confusing. But it also sounded good too. You're like, all right, well, this guy knows what he's talking about. Maybe I should buy the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. What else? Lonnie Moon, your group have any learning points?
Mostly just talked about, the settlement itself, and how the biggest change that I thought was going to happen is that buyer's agents are going to have to learn how to prove their value, just like listing agents do every single day. Because at the end of the day, you're basically trying to convince a buyer to potentially pay your commission out of their pocket. So there's a value add that you have to prove and show.
Yeah, that's a great point. Communicating value. I think it was a couple of weeks ago we talked about showing value. And so, yeah, it's definitely something you need to think about because you can't just expect to find somebody off a referral or something and expect them to want to work with you just because they happen to get your name and phone number, or maybe you're paying for Zillow leads or whatever it is. And so you're gonna have to communicate that to them. And given people's attention spans, it may not be like talking to them directly may not be the best route to do that. Might just be like, hey, here's my Facebook business page, or here's my actual page. You can see some examples of properties that I've listed or helped buyers buy, stuff like that, so they can see, because it's a little bit easier to get their attention if you're like, hey, look at this, and then they just scroll for an hour looking at all your stuff on social media. So definitely think about how you're going to do that, or you have your website, which you can set that up through KV Core, whatever it is. Definitely put some thought into how you're going to communicate that value in an effective way, and I wouldn't fully put all your eggs in one basket for just talking at them and telling them, I'm the best agent out here. You should work with me because I'm amazing. Yeah. Any other learning points? All right. I'm just going to drop a link for a book that I enjoyed listening to.
Sir, my name is David. A question came up when we were having the discussion, and there's this point where a question we're asking, what if the client is like, no, I'm not gonna sign anything, I'm not gonna commit anything, but I like you, I want you to represent me. What are you gonna do at that point? And you've tried and showing them they don't want to sign anything, but they really want you to help them. How can you help us with that?
So I would say just blame it on the brokerage. So it is going to be a requirement. It's already like a semi-requirement right now for EXP, and so you just blame it on the brokerage. Yeah, I love everything we talked about today. I'm really excited to help you. Unfortunately, my brokerage it's a required item, so I am not allowed to open a single door for you until you sign this document. If it was up to me, I would show you a million houses and I wouldn't even charge you anything, but my brokerage requires me to get this document signed. So if you don't want to sign it, you're more than welcome to be on your way and find someone else, but I would love to help you make this dream come true and look out for your best interest in doing this. And if they still are just like, no, I don't want to sign this, then that tells you what kind of person they are. And maybe you shouldn't waste your time on them. Because if they're saying like, oh yeah, I trust you and I want to work with you, blah, 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 they might be setting up a meeting with another agent to go talk to them and like, oh yeah, this other agent, he said he's only going to charge me 2% to represent me. So can you beat that? And then he's going to go back to you. Oh yeah, and it's like an indicator. It's a red flag right there. This person isn't trusting me. So maybe I shouldn't trust them with my time and energy and expertise. Were you going to say something, Chase?
Oh, no.
Okay. But yeah, the link I dropped in the chat box. So it's this book called Improv Your Conversations. So if you feel at all like you need to boost your ability to keep conversations flowing, it's a good book for that. It's kind of like, if you look at the cover of the book, it's improve. So kind of like improv comedy, like some techniques you can use to keep the conversation flowing, asking open-ended questions, stuff like that. So it's not just, oh, so you want to buy a house? Yep. Do you want some square footage in there? Yep. So asking open-ended questions. So what makes you want to buy a house? Oh, I talked to my family and they said it's a good idea to invest in real estate. And then you can just keep the conversation flowing like that. That's all I've got for today. Stick around for a couple more minutes in case anyone has any questions. But aside from that, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Here's my phone number right here. Feel free to send me any referrals if you know anybody that's moving to Hawaii looking to buy or sell or rent. Because even though I don't get compensated for helping renters, it's that mindset of abundance where if you help somebody, they might refer you to one of their other friends in their unit that's moving that does want to buy. So you never know what can come from just being a good person and helping people. If you help enough people get what they want, you can get what you want. That quote came from Jim Rohn, a good motivational speaker guy to listen to. But have a blessed week. Voila.